Hello and welcome to the weekly Inside the Lab live show, the weekly live experience that was subsequently flexed over to a Sunday. I'm not going to go into it too much detail to spare the replay viewers, but hey, if you remember the conversation we had last week, I told you I had to get something taken care of, and I just decided that I would likely be better spirits had I just postponed the live show to the next day. But one thing's for sure, you knew we weren't going to go without seeing one another and conversating during our weekly live experience. And I tell you what, if this is your first time here, I want to catch you early on. I want to hook you early on. If this is your first time here and you're a regular or you're not a regular viewer, I tell you what, do let me know or do let us know down in the comment section below. Say hashtag, replay viewer down in the comment section. And at any point, if you have a question about anything that's discussed throughout the live show, do feel free to drop them down in the comment section as well. And of course, if you are watching with us right now, do feel free at any time to check into the live chat. This is an interactive experience here on the Inside the Lab weekly live show. So yeah, as we give a little bit more time for a few friends and fam to roll in, I just want to say hello to Bad Habit. Bad Habit was hanging out in the chat a little earlier, and I do apologize. I had to keep, pushing the stream time back a little bit. I was watching the Xbox E3 live event, and it just wasn't really much there to get excited about, at least in my opinion. But we'll talk about that down the road. But also, I want to say hello to Sparta Rules. It's good to see you too, brother Anthony. What's going on? So, got a few returning viewers, which is always a good sign here on the platform or on YouTube. And we're going to jump right into it. And essentially, the theme or the conversation, the topic for this live show was essentially or is essentially a follow up to the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming video I published last week. I'm a big fan of that video. It's a talking head kind of commentary like content or presented in that format in like a talking head format. But I tell you what, it's powerful. The message there is powerful, and there were so many thoughtful comments and conversations being had under that video that I only I only thought it'd be appropriate to follow up the conversation here right now live with the community and discuss essentially the aftermath that is the fate of PC gaming. So that is what the conversation is highlighted for, this live show. And if at any point that you have, I was going to say if you're a first time viewer, but we already been through that spiel. But again, if you're here with us now live, feel free at any point to, add to the conversation, right? Add to the topic at hand. It's presented to us all right there. That is, we're discussing the aftermath that is of PC gaming, right? The fate of PC gaming, where we are right now, where we could possibly go in the future. And when I say we, I mean all of us that are here right now. Those of you who may have already have had your system built, right? And maybe it's a maybe you're using legacy parts. I don't like to say older hardware, but maybe you're using legacy parts and you are ready to say upgrade, but you can't, right? You may find yourself in that predicament, or you may find yourself planning your build out and being able to, have the necessary funds left over that you had originally anticipating needed to complete your build. Why? Well, because of a multitude of factors, some of which we talked about in that first part of this, I guess you can call it a two-part miniseries is how I branded it. But we talked about some of those reasons why in the Doomsday Clock video. Now, if you haven't yet watched the Doomsday Clock video yet, which I believe most of you who are at least here with us right now, but if you're here on the replay or you may hear me repeat this as more viewers come in, but if you haven't yet watched that video, I highly recommend you watch that video first and then quite possibly either come back to this live stream and watch it on the replay, or immediately after this live stream go back and watch the Doomsday Clock video. It is pinned at the top of the live stream chat. But again, if you've already seen it, do be sure to stick around first and foremost for this conversation and watch that video afterwards. But it does essentially serve as a companion video, or this live stream serves as a companion video topic to that video. Let me jump back over to the chat really fast because Bad Habit says Sparta Rules is in the house, right? Yeah, so it's good. And Sparta Rules Anthony just joined our Discord. So Bad Habit again, if I'm not sure if you're in there yet, Bad Habit, but do join us over in the Discord. A lot of the core of the community is over there, and the Discord, it's growing slowly but surely. But I tell you what, let's jump right into everybody's favorite segment as more peeps, old school term right there, as more peeps roll in. And I want to start off with the one of the first ways you can support the channel, support the brand, and support the message in a really big way. And that's, of course, signing up for our email list. This is you can say that your email list serves as an insurance policy, right? Say something happened to the channel or any one of my social media platforms, and I am unable to connect with the core audience, or say we need to reboot the brand or reboot the channel, or let's say we launch companion channels, if you will, under the network that you may be interested to subscribing to and catching that content. So Unity does start with you, and on top of that, you get some of the perks of being the first to be notified of any major upcoming programming that happens to roll out here from the channel. All I need is your email address and your first name. You are free to unsubscribe at any time should I not be deemed worthy enough to bless your inbox with my notifications, which if you're already a part of the email list, and I don't really send them out as much. Maybe a reminder about, a special live stream, for example, like I did with the anniversary live stream, or just if it's a big topic that I may believe is relevant to a core group of the audience, and I want to make sure that you're notified, because I've been told a couple times here by members like Tricion and other community members who have commented on other videos that they didn't receive the notification for this video, or they received the notification after the live stream has ended, which I guess is a gift and a curse, because the way YouTube's algorithm works, it's better to have that viewer be notified at any point during the live stream and have them come on board. So it could be incredibly frustrating and essentially out of my control. But on the email list, if you sign up for our email list, this is in my control, and I am able to have a direct line of communication with the core of the audience. So you want to sign up for our email list. All of these links that I'm going to mention here, you can find down in the description box below, aka we call that the basement for the uninitiated around here, just in case you hear me say it. We do call that the basement, but you can find all of these links that I'm going to discuss here in a moment down in the description box below or in the pinned comment. So that's one of them. Unity starts with you. Join our email list. And that way you can also be sent the invite for our community Discord, Converse. And then we have merch, right? Every creator's favorite revenue stream, right? Merch. But listen, I love merch because, well, I kind of like the concept of fashion and blending that with this community or this platform, that being PC gaming. And of course, it has the Inside the Lab branding on the merch, right? Some pretty cool swag you can find over on our Teespring Inside the Lab merch store, like the plug graphic series. I like this one here, graphic edition. And you can also support the channel with, your contributions as low as buying a $5 sticker, right? Place it on your table, maybe on your case. Maybe all right, maybe not your case, but it really supports the channel in a. It may seem like a small, insignificant way, but it really does help. In the overall grand scheme of my journey of becoming a full-time creator on this platform and others. But you can find the link to the merch store down in the description box below, right? Give that a look see over. And plus we have the hot gamer summer coming up. That new line of merch that we'll be dropping here, as it's summer where I'm at over in the States. And I forgot to do our normal check-in. Do let me know where you're watching from. Check in if we haven't before and you haven't shared, and tell us where you're watching from, what's going on in your neck of the woods, what's the weather like, all that good jazz. But yeah, we have our Hot Boy Summer line coming up, or Hot PC Gamer line coming up for the summertime. So do keep a lookout for that. And then last but not least, we have the website. Here's the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming video that you heard me referring to a second ago. And on the website, you can find links like the most recent video. If you haven't, maybe you don't watch, maybe you watch your videos off platform, or you want to make sure, that you're current on the videos and the live streams, because the previous live streams also, the live stream from the previous week is always left up here as well. This video or this link is updated after each live show. So you can check out our community blog post, contact me directly, learn a little bit about your boy Lab, or check out the complete videography. Every video I've published publicly and privately, all over here on the underneath the videography tab. Not all videos make their way over to YouTube. Some I leave uncatalogued, and maybe start playing with the idea of exclusive videos over on the website. So. But yeah, so check out all three of those sites, right? The website, traffic really helps push the brand, push the message, right? All that good stuff, grow the community. Of course, the merch supports me as a creator, and the email list is a surefire way to guarantee that there's an open line of communication between myself, your content creator, and the community. In the event something happens to the channel, which don't, not going to think about it, but the possibilities there. So you can find all of those links down in the description box below. Once again, let me just jump over to the chat here really fast. Bad Habit says, I'm not in there yet. How do you get to it? I barely use Discord. I'm on the email list though. Okay, so Bad Habit, all you need to do is accept the link. Well, the link's likely expired now. I'll be sending out a updated invite link. You just click on a link, and it's essentially an invite to join the private Discord. So I understand. I was a lot like yourself. I didn't really have a need for Discord really until I started communicating with other creators, and then became a creator myself, and started growing a community of like-minded individuals. And so I said, well, we need a place where we can gather and talk outside of the platform. Should in the event that the platform be compromised. So excuse me, Discord is definitely one reason why you want to be over there in our community. And it's just like an open line, a 24/7 text communication or text conversation, right? I believe like guys like Cliff and Tricion Anthony just Sparta Rules just joined, and it's just a fluent conversation of just random things, right? There, of course, they are appropriate because there are community guidelines that I ask all members to follow just to ensure a safe and friendly environment. But yeah, I mean, it's just casual conversation, and we talk all things sports, gaming, hardware, or doesn't necessarily have to involve hardware, right? It could be personal. Life is just it's our community and it's exclusive and consider it like one large gated community where everybody who comes on the other side is vetted and for the most part is known. So yeah, bad habit. I tell you what, um, I will send I will send the invite link out sometime between today and Sunday. Okay. So keep a lookout for that and anybody else who's interested in joining. So sign up. If you haven't yet, sign up using the link down in the description box below. And TMZ says, hey, nice. What's up, everyone? It's good to see you, Mr. Zombified TMZ. We just wrapped up our house cleaning segment. And we were just getting, as I see you said you made it. Yeah, we just wrapped up our house cleaning segment. And I'll tell you what, let's jump right into the core. Always good to see Mr. Zombified. Bad habit, right? Sparta rules, all you guys. Again, I do want to apologize really quick here before we jump in for flexing the live show over to Sunday. I didn't want to not go live at all. It really burns me up when I don't go live. And I started this show, and consistency is so important to you know the journey. It's so important to the journey as a creator, right? In terms of building that community and staying consistent. So we had to flex it to a Sunday. I do apologize, and because it's on a Sunday, we're not going to be long here. But I did want to follow up the Mrs. Zombified, which I do believe we did conversate underneath that video with the Doomsday Clock video I published last week. Um, that video is performing, relatively well for the most part. It's here recently gaining views. Excuse me, gaining views on YouTube has been a little challenging for creators of all sizes, right? With different subscriber counts, doesn't matter. Gaining views has been hard to come by here as of lately, so it's performing better than the normal VODs I've published prior to that. So that's a good sign, with the exception of the RTX 3090 series we did. So, but yeah. And the TMZ says, thank you. You're certainly welcome. So we were just getting ready to jump in, right, with our warm up, right? And again, I do want to welcome anyone who is just joining us, or if you're here on the replay, I want to welcome you to the live show for this live stream. All right, for the topic of the conversation for today's weekly live show is the aftermath, the fate of PC gaming, right? We did did the Doomsday Clock video, and now we're following up with the aftermath of the Doomsday Clock being triggered. So first we covered the inevitable hands of the Doomsday Clock that pushed PC gaming toward the edge, and now leaving seasoned enthusiasts and gamers, right, to deal with the aftermath of, well, of a market that continues to shrink, right? As it becomes more and more affected by so many different factors, factors that are so far out of our control, it's become sickening, right? That is the effects of the Doomsday Clock being triggered, right? That is the future of PC gaming, the future. But the fate is out of our control. So, what is the fate, or what is the fate of PC gaming, right? That is what we're discussing during this live show, all right? And of course, answering your questions along the way. So once again, if you are new here, I am Terrence, your conductor, your host, your operator of this here live experience, or this essentially this ride, this roller coaster is what we like to refer it as. I am your host and your conductor, operator, all of those good things. I'm here to take you along the journey of this live show. So with that out the way, let's jump right into it. Let's switch right over back to our visuals, right? Our visual aids, and jump right into the juice or the meat of the conversation, the meat of the topic. And again, at any point, feel free to share in your opinions or your thoughts on this subject matter. This is an open two-way conversation. Um, Although it's a little linear because you can hear and see me, but I can only, read back your text and engage with you in that way. But nonetheless, at any point, please feel free to, chime in. I will read your questions and your thoughts and your opinions back. And TMZ says, thank you. Great editing job as always. I do appreciate it. TMZ is referring to the Doomsday Clock video, the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming video I published last week. And again, that video is essentially the first part of this two-part miniseries. And if you haven't yet seen that video, I do want to remind you that it is at the top of the live chat and it is a pinned comment. So if you haven't seen that one, it's about a 9+ minute video. We're going to be around for a while. Feel free to dip in, dip out. Hit the smash the like button on this video. Hit the like button over on that video. And if you're new here and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, you haven't yet joined this community, hopefully it is this live stream where I have either been entertaining or educational or provide enough value to earn your subscription. So would love to have you as a member. But yeah, check that video out. Do appreciate it, TMZ. Editing is something I just naturally love to do. Like if I was camera shy, if I was one of those people who say, well, I don't mind, making thumbnails, or I don't mind editing video or setting up a camera, setting up lighting, all that good stuff. I would likely just be an editor for a larger creator or at a larger media studio. But I love editing and I love being on camera. So here we are. Um, I am, I am, I am doing it, right? We're going to continue to keep the wave flowing. Skitty, it's good to see you, Scott. I'm not even gonna read back your comment because you're just trolling me today. I'm still above and surrounded by the goodness of DC. But this is one of my favorite shirts, so yeah, definitely. As Skitty says, that shirt is life. I'ma need one. Yeah, I like this. I like this shirt. I'm pretty sure you lovely gents, ladies and gents, can't see the rest of it, but it says keeping the streets safe, right? With some of the OG Avengers there, um, Hawk, Hawk, Captain America, Tony Stark, Iron Man, and of course the Asgardian Thor. Love me some Marvel. Of course, some MCU every once in a while. Only the good movies, and and they are so far and few between. But I tell you what, we're off that, and we're back on this discussion here, and that is, we're discussing the fate of PC gaming, right? The aftermath that has trickled on down from this doomsday-like scenario. In terms of, in that video, I had discussed that the platform essentially is starting to shrink, or the platform growth has been stunted by the such high demand and manufacturer or the semiconductor foundries being unable to meet that meet that demand. If you leave it to folks like the CEOs, they'll tell you, well, there's no GPU, there's no supply and demand issue. It's just demand is high. Well, keep in mind that demand isn't just, it's high. Yes. Yes, it is high. But, excuse me, why exactly is it high? It's not just, gamers who desire these new chips, right? You have the automotive industry, right? You have appliances, devices, you have, tablets, you have consoles, right? You have so many other companies that are in demand of these same chips, that demand is at an all-time high. But it's not a case of there's an all-time high of PC gamers looking to say break into the market, right? No, that's not the case. Yes, in concept, those launches will drop, they'll launch, they'll essentially be a paper launch, right? That is essentially because those graphics cards, they can only likely make one or two models at a time, with some of those other chips going to some of the other partners that they have to settle up, with their supply. And it's really rocked the automotive industry, cost them trillions of dollars. Talked about it again in that follow-up video, the first part. And if you're just now joining us, I want to um, do a subtle plug here a little bit, but we are following up essentially with the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming video, we published last week with this live stream. So we're talking about the aftermath of the Doomsday Clock being triggered, and that is the fate of PC gaming and what that entails for enthusiasts and even, newcomers and newbies who are looking to jump onto this platform, but they can't for a multitude of reasons that are even beyond their understanding. Part of the goal here on this channel is to convert as many of those users over to this platform. That message, while has become more difficult than ever, like even before I could have imagined to choose this niche to create video content for, had I could I have anticipated this issue, right? For the most part, even some of your favorite much larger tech creators, they may not be as cool than me, but whatever. They have higher numbers, but it is what it is. Even for them as well, their content strategy had to shift. So, mine's as well. Simply because this issue, like this semiconductor shortage, and the high demand of graphics cards and GPUs between cryptocurrency miners and cryptocurrency becoming, all-time profitable and all-time high in value. And listen, it's a market I don't necessarily follow. I'm not against GPU mining. Just because I don't do it, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I don't hold a grudge towards the miners. I more so believe it is on the manufacturers. They bear the burden of being able to meet the supply and demand for both market categories. Now, NVIDIA has tried that with their CRM-based GPUs or cryptocurrency mining GPUs, but we'll see if, Ethereum GPU miners continue to favor, say, efficient RTX graphics cards, right, between 20 and 30 series, or say these CRM-based cards. We don't know, right? We don't know. The Mr. Zombify says, we must be the hardcore gamers now, being on PC. And Skitty says, PC gaming is a wave that has been going on, and it's only getting bigger. Yeah, and so that wave, that wave has begun to subside, right? It's still there. They're subtle, but now that wave has begun to subside. It's beginning to die down. It's not as rigorous and impactful. It's not splashing the beach and and pulling sand back and coming back just as fierce as it left. It's starting to grow stagnant, right? So that wave needs to be triggered by a splash, right? What's that splash? That splash is an abundance of GPU inventory, because that's the only way where there will be enough, inventory to say cover a fraction of the gamers in the marketplace that's in demand of these graphics cards, right? Very small amount. But here's the beautiful thing about that wave, though. See, the wave's not dead completely. See, the wave's not dead completely. We ended that video, which again, a classic among, in my opinion, right? I really love that video, right? And those of you who don't know, I just want to bring it up real quick. If you don't know what video we're talking about, it's this one here. That is the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming. You could find that over in our most recent videos. If you haven't yet quite watched that video, I highly recommend you either at the conclusion of this live show or, any point you say, hey, I'll dip out. I'll be right back. I'm going to watch that video, come back. We'll be around for more than, of course, about 9 minutes. The video is about 9 minutes long, but still a lot of good content and information shared in this video. Again, it's at the pinned comment here above the live chat, and of course in the description box below if you want to find it at the conclusion of this live stream. But we talked about, how the PC gaming isn't dead, right? It's not dead. It's not dead. TMZ says for sure it will only get bigger and keep going. And in terms of replying to Scott or Skitty Live's comment about the wave getting bigger, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so TMZ, in my opinion, to piggyback off of both you gentlemen's comment, and that's to add that, yeah, the wave will continue. Like I said, the wave hasn't stopped, right? It just died down a little bit. It just slowed down a little bit. But it will keep going, right? Now to get bigger, in terms of spatial radius, it may get bigger, right? But in terms of impactful, like waves you can really feel, right? Waves you can truly ride, right? Because I'm no surfer fan. I'm not even a big fan of the water. I don't do water. Uh, but my understanding is, listen, if you want to surf, you want to ride a wave, that wave's got to be tall, fam. It's got to be like a big wave. So we need GPUs. We need the marketplace. We need the marketplace. It's not necessarily just graphics cards. We're going to talk about that here as we jump into the meat of the content. But it's not just graphics cards, right? We are talking about the platform as a whole. The platform as a whole, not just necessarily one component. One component has affected the marketplace, but we are talking about, the PC as a platform, right? So let's jump let's jump right into it. As TMZ or Bad Habit says, PCs will be the norm very soon. Yeah, I mean, every most of your devices around you have chips inside of them, right? Your consoles, your phones, your tablets, things that like your smartwatch. All of these devices have essentially chips inside of them. They are all essentially mini computers, and I imagine a future where there's different CPUs, different processors for different tasks or for different devices, say mobile, console, desktop, data center, enterprise, AI, what have you. Just different CPUs for different classes and different ranges, because it will only continue to become more abundant now that CPUs. PCs as a general, well, we're talking about gaming PCs. We will need, the graphics card situation to stabilize a bit better. I mean, this is something we've been dealing with since what, 2020, but at the top of 2020 graphics cards were like normalish, but prior to that they were just out of they were it was the same thing. It was hard to find graphics cards. At one point it was hard to find a 5700 XT at launch, and the same thing with the Radeon Vega 56 and 64, just to name a few. I mean, cards were still very much hard to come by and were selling for ridiculous prices. This was in, I believe, 2017 to 2018. We had a mini GPU shortage. It definitely was not as bad as it is now. That is for dang sure. But all good stuff. Let's jump right into it here. So yeah, that's this is the future of PC gaming, right? The Doomsday Clock. But in this live stream, we're discussing the aftermath, the fate of PC gaming, right? And now with the first content block, we're starting off with the obvious here, and that's no value amongst inflation, or where's the value in a market where the product sells for more than it's worth. Right? Think about it for a second. This is the problem that is true, or this is the problem in both market segments, in both the new market and both the used market. All of the graphics cards, even on previous generation, right? You're talking like RX 500 series and 400 series graphics cards, or maybe 900 series and 700 series graphics cards. Still, I've been tracking, I've been following them, and for the most part they all still sell with about a 35 to 45% markup, right? Which this truly destroys the value. This is something we've been talking about so many times. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this segment, but still, this is a part of, or this will determine the fate of PC gaming, right? Because the key there is the gaming. You can build a PC without a graphics card, sure. Nobody's going to argue that, but can you build a comparable, say, console-esque like or PC, right, without a graphics card? That's a little bit more challenging, and we're going to talk about that a little bit down the road on this live stream. So again, do be sure to stick around. But again, where's the value in a market where everything sells for more than it's worth, right? A GTX 970 maybe should cost 110, $100, but now they're running for $200-$300. That's insane. That's insane. That's more than, say, a GTX 1660 Ti before the tech demic. So you have to ask yourself, there's no value in paying more for a graphics card that performs, or that's slower than your alternative, that say like the 1660 Ti with an MSRP of like up to $299, right? No, it's nowhere in your right mind should you spend $300 on a GTX 970. But the issue, more or less, doubles down and focuses on the core component among essentials. That is the graphics card, right? CPUs before AMD was able to, I guess, shore up their 5600X and 5800X stock, like it has definitely gotten better prior to when those CPUs first launched. 5600Xs were selling for about $500, which is insane. Again, why? Because that's a $299 MSRP CPU, and it was being marked up for what, like 35-40% cost. So CPUs have definitely gotten better, but graphics cards still continue to suffer amongst what I consider what the graphics card, your component among essentials, or the core component among other essential components, right? Here in 2021, through the tech demic, right? And especially for PC gamers, your options are get lucky, pay a premium, right? Or find alternatives versus waiting for the semiconductor industry to catch up or to keep up. Now, you could get lucky is likely unfortunate, but we've had some folks like Cliff, XLR Gaming, who was able to win a lottery, right? The New Egg lottery to get an RTX 3070. Ironically, I went into Micro Center for as an unrelated topic, which you'll hear about here soon. But I went to Micro Center and they actually had RTX 3080 Ti's available, or so the rep claimed. As I was like, hey, did I hear somebody asking for a graphics card? Kind of like poking fun of the situation, and he was just like, well, we do have 3080 Ti's, and I started to say, well, you have like the least value orientated card in stock. Like I would have been impressed if you said, well, we don't have any 30 series, but we do have a few 6700 XTs in the back. Hey, for $479, there's a better value card in terms of what was available at the $1,100 price point. As you figure, you can buy a 6700 XT, a Ryzen 5 3600, or a 5600X and a B550 motherboard, and you're well on your way to a beefy modern system. So I just kind of shrugged it off like I'm not even interested in your 3080 Ti inventory, sir. But if you said you had some 6700 XTs back there or 6800 XTs, I'd be like, hey, there's a card that should be selling like hotcakes. But you know, the core, I guess the core message here is that there's no value among inflation. Inflation is another factor that is largely in part out of our control in terms of in terms of market prices and those prices affecting your availability or affecting their availability. So I do want to at this moment though I do want to bring up a question, a Twitter question that Cliff had asked me over on Twitter. And as a shameful plug, if you haven't yet followed me on Twitter, what are you waiting for? You definitely going to want to follow me over on Twitter at Inside the Lab YT. I will follow you back. If you tell me you're a Lab fan, just give me hey a Lab fan. Or most of the time, when I get the notification that I got a new follower, I will check out the profile. Um, I know my numbers look a little skewed, but especially when it's people who are part of the community, I want to follow you as much as you want to follow me. So follow me over on Twitter. Just another way to, have an open line of communication with me. But on Twitter, Cliff had asked a question that was connected to another conversation. And Cliff said, which GPU would I recommend? Essentially, AMD or an AMD GPU or an NVIDIA GPU. And I did respond to the comment. I did respond to the comment just pointing out that right now during the tech demic, essentially any graphics card that's available for your money is a viable option. Now, prior to the tech demic, I would always value, price to performance or getting the best graphics card you possibly could for your money. Rather that be you only had $200 or you only had $300 or maybe you didn't have a budget for a dedicated graphics card. I almost want to say a dedicated budget for a dedicated graphics card, but I wanted to double back on value, right? Or I wanted to say that I remember in my response to that tweet, right? Because the way I see it between AMD graphics cards and NVIDIA graphics cards, I know it sounds a little cliche, but AMD has historically been known as the budget solution or budget alternative to NVIDIA's GeForce cards, which are ideal for PC gamers and enthusiasts who want to get the most out of the best possible gaming experience. Now, that comes with the premium. That comes with the premium. For example, the the 6700 XT we were just mentioning. The 6700 XT, bear with me here now as I give the MSRP as the example. I know it hurts. Every time I hear MSRP, I'm like, man, I haven't known what an I haven't paid MSRP for a graphics card in almost 2 years or 3 years, especially if it was, for a card for me personally, because most of the clients I consult with, they're not interested in building $1,000 machines. Um, but if you look at the 6700 XT with an MSRP, gosh, it burns me up to say it every time, but with an MSRP of $479 with its 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM, right, and all the other features that comes with, visual super fidelity and all those other technologies, versus the $700 RTX 3080, which does have 10 gig, slightly faster memory, it has GDDR6X memory and a slightly faster bandwidth, or the $1,200 RTX 3080 Ti, which has 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. So you ask yourself, which one really holds more value? Is it worth to pay, that price difference, depending on which graphics card you want to skew it and go with, either between that $200 to $300 plus price premium just for an NVIDIA graphics card? You have to ask yourself, is that money well spent, and how much could that really enhance my experience as a PC gamer? Maple Joker says ILU. Why? Okay. Well, Maple Joker is good to see you. Maple Joker, I think you've been around before. TMZ says hopefully AMD will throw us a bone with VSR. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people hating on VSR from what I can see, but anything that could breathe new life into legacy parts or to, legacy platforms, I'm all for it. This could possibly open a door to gamers who aren't as interested in getting the most FPS or playing games at their highest possible graphic settings. I know I said more FPS, so it's a little contradictory, but maybe you are willing to compromise some of that image quality for slightly more FPS if you're on an older graphics card. So that could be a huge uplift in FPS for gamers that are on, older legacy hardware, which I would say that it wouldn't even increase the value of those older cards because they already retain value by just being available. We can't fabricate new graphics cards, right? Because there's just not enough wafers to go around or to feed all of the partners and all of the interested parties. But we can rely on the graphics cards that say were already fabricated or have already been tested, used, or on the secondhand market. Those graphics cards retain their value just by simply being available. So FSR, should it work and it bring meaning back to those to legacy hardware, I think it's a smart move by AMD, and it's something that I definitely plan on testing coming up because they also said it's going to be on GTX 10 series graphics cards. So hey, why not? Very interesting move they did there. Very comparable to how they open up the floodgates for say AM for their FreeSync technology, making it open source and available to all developers. So interesting move by AMD right there. And Bad Habit says, I used to be NVIDIA for me since I started gaming, but now with AMD doing their thing, I may switch to a 6800 XT. Yeah, I mean, AMD is doing their things on both fronts. I long have given AMD credit for this, but AMD is essentially fighting a two-front war. They have, NVIDIA, a large multi-billion-dollar company on one front, and then they have Intel, another multi-billion-dollar company, on another front, and they have to fend off the competition in both ways to remain relevant here and what appears to be a crowded market. And it may seem crowded, but guess what, fam? We don't have enough GPUs to go around, so it's not as crowded as one would think. If anything, we need more foundries. We need more fabrication sites to, make more GPU dies and more CPU dies. But again, remember we talked about the factors that are out of our control. But switching back here to add that with cryptocurrency mining becoming more and more popular and the demand for said chips, right, between the automotive industry and now Sony and Microsoft, they need these chips to complete PS5 orders and Xbox Series SX orders. We will continue to see inflated prices on both the new and used market. The new market more so due to tariffs and inflations and just everything going up in in price, which is continuing which is making that recommendation quite challenging in terms of which one should you go with, because remember I told you to grit your teeth when we talked about MSRP, right? Because the 6700 XT is not available for $479. The RTX 3080 isn't available for $700, which is still a little. It's a hefty premium, even though it's faster than the $1,100 offer in the previous generation. But the value seems to lie with finding an APU, right, a dedicated GPU or a dedicated GPU that can run the games you want to play at your ideal resolution. That is where the true value lies, right? Is finding an APU or a dedicated video card that can play the games you want to play at the resolution you want to play. That is what matters at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, no, there's no value among inflations. Among inflation, we have to pay more simply because demand is high. Now, that's out of our control. What is in our control is the hardware that we do decide to go with, right? And we do decide to complete our builds with. That is in your control, and that's something we're going to add on and talk about more, right? But I want to show you the 6700 XT, just quickly going over the specs, because it is a solid, say, 1440p high settings graphics card with the 12 gigabytes of VRAM. It is GDDR6, so slightly slower, but at $479, it's essentially about $100 more than the 5700 XT, give or take the add-in board partner model, but still very much a capable graphics card for the money. Now, would I recommend this graphics card, say, over the RTX 3080? If that person either had a budget of let's say they had a budget of $500, and they say, hey lab, what graphics card would you recommend at $500 if if we weren't going through a tech demic, if we didn't have the GPU shortage supreme, or what I saw Brian over at Tech Yes City called it, the great GPU drought. If we didn't have these issues, I'd say absolutely the 6700 XT at $500 is brilliant. It's a better option over the RTX 3060, slightly faster than RTX 3070, slightly slower than the 3080, but still under $500. Great graphics card for your money. Will allow you to play at 1080p at a high refresh rate depending on your game, and 1440p with some of that sweet graphic candy turned all the way up. I see Cliff says, hey there, peeps, or hey there, everyone. And Cliff says, thanks, Mrs. Mai. Glad to be here. Yeah, welcome, Cliff. Welcome. I was just answering your Twitter question, using your Twitter question as an example here. When you asked, what graphics card would I recommend, an AMD graphics card or an NVIDIA graphics card, or which one would I normally recommend? Like I just got done mentioning really fast, that what it would really boil down to is that person's budget and how much they would have to spend. With the tech demic aside, if MSRP's, in a perfect timeline or a more ideal timeline, this graphics card may be hard to find monthly, but still nonetheless, users and PC enthusiasts, they're picking them up, they're completing builds. OEM and system integrators, they're able to find their clients dedicated graphics cards, the graphics cards they want. If that individual had a budget of $500 off the bat, I would immediately persuade or lead them over to Team Red, right? Especially with the RDNA 2. The RDNA 2 architecture has really improved AMD's graphic division a great deal, making them unfortunately relevant in a bad time. That bad time being a semiconductor shortage, which is even out of NVIDIA and AMD's hands as well. Because guess what, y'all? They don't own and run the foundries. Okay, they just contract them out to design, their chips, what have you. Krypton 60 hertz. It's good to see you again. Krypton said that's right. Krypton just said just call me Krypton. They'll put my whole information out and call me Krypton 60 hertz. Just call me Krypton. It's good to see you. Krypton is Cliff and everybody's welcoming you in. Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're just now joining us, let's switch back here because we are discussing the aftermath or the fate of PC gaming, which we are following up to this video, which is the Doomsday Clock, the future of PC gaming. And so that video had generated so many other conversations on that video. And if you haven't yet watched it, again, I said I was going to routinely plug it throughout this video, but it is pinned to the top of the live chat or in the description box below if you're here on the replay. Do give it a watch. But this live stream, we are following up with that video with the Doomsday Clock being triggered, with the aftermath and the fate of PC gaming now that the Doomsday Clock hands have started ticking and the PC market as a platform continues to shrink. What is the fate of PC gaming? What is the future of PC gaming? How can we as enthusiasts keep the ball going, right, for the next generation of enthusiasts and PC gamers? This too shall pass. I know the situation seems dire, but together we can get through this, right? Because PC gaming is too much money. There's too much money in the gaming industry just for it to go away. It's just not going to happen. But yeah. But back to the Radeon 6700 XT. Again, this graphics card at $479, brilliant graphics card, but you won't find it if I jumped over to eBay here really fast, which I know it hurts, fam, but we got to do it. But if I jump back over to eBay here really fast and we key in a 6700 XT, a graphics card with a $479 MSRP is selling for about what, 100%, almost 100% markup. So I mean that hurts, and so that destroys the value of this graphics card as it now costs what the equivalent of a 6900 XT should cost you. That's a $1,000 MSRP graphics card, right? With 4 more gigabytes of VRAM, slightly faster. That's $1,000. The 6700 XT is going to cost you that. Your Highness, it's good to see you. What's happening, Your Highness? Another regular. Again, we got a lot of our regulars, and while you're here, I do want to again apologize about this Flex Sunday. I do not like occupying the community time on Sunday. I think Sunday is a day for rest and relaxation, but I got a live show to host here. But I do appreciate everybody for tuning in and joining in. Yesterday I got my second, or me and Mrs. Mod, we got our second shot, and I didn't want to go. Let me go back here. This is important here, everybody's. I didn't want to go live and not in a proper state of mind. So I had no effects, a little sore, but just like greatly fatigued. And I had another mission that you're going to see or hear about in an upcoming video. Can't wait to share that video with you. But yeah, I do apologize about flexing over to a Sunday. Normally don't like flexing over to a Sunday, and on top of that, it ran a little late, but nonetheless, I do appreciate everybody that's here, and I do want to remind you at any point to, on your way in or out, hit the like button for me, and if you haven't yet, do tap that subscribe button. It is right down there. If you haven't yet subscribed, hopefully I will be educational and entertaining enough to have had earned your subscription during this live show. Cliff says, Accelerate says, only thing is as hard as NVIDIA cards are to find, AMD cards are even harder in my experience. And this is true. In fact, I believe you had just came on where I had shared in a quick mini story. I had to go to Micro Center the other day. I had to go to Micro Center, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I had to go to Micro Center the other day, and I just kind of made a joke about somebody asking about a graphics card, and the gentleman, the associate said, well, we do have graphics cards. I have we have RTX 3080 Ti's back there. And in my head, I'm like, this mission is time sensitive. Like, I don't have time to do this with you, but you're telling me you have the least value oriented graphics card out of what most people are looking for. I'm not impressed. I'm not all that enthused about it. If you told me you had some 6700 XTs back there, or some 6800 XTs back there, reference models, I'd have been like, hey, you know what? That's actually pretty good, man. Good for y'all. Good, good for the Parkville Micro Center. But having a 3080 Ti, it's $1,100 graphics card that's stuck between a 3080 and a 3090. It's in a very awkward and weird place that even if you had a 1080 Ti, the upgrade just seems like wow, it would still cost you even if you sold your 1080 Ti for market value or fair price, say like $400. You're still what at $700, maybe give or take, depending on the model you would want to go with to make that upgrade. And so, how much more performance are you looking at? It's significantly faster, obviously, the 3080 Ti versus a 1080 Ti. You're going to pay for it though. But yeah, AMD graphics cards are harder to find. They are. And again, I would have been more impressed at the Micro Center had the had some 6700 XTs back there for $479. But they didn't. And the 6700 XT is, not worth it. I hate to say obvious, but let's do it. Obviously, it's not worth it at this price point. Even if you wanted this graphics card, you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Listen, I really want this graphics card. Listen, I'm here to tell you, go for it. Don't. I'm only here to help you make informed buying decisions. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money in terms of what's right and what's wrong. But if you're willing to pay $1,000 for this graphics card, do know you are destroying the value in this component. Because if you're willing to settle for $1,000 on a graphics card, then consider spending more and actually getting one that's fast enough. It's a very delicate situation to be. I'm not against it. I just wouldn't recommend it if you really wanted that particular graphics card, like if you had a need. But I'm like Cliff. Cliff said I totally would run a 6900 XT if I had the opportunity. So the 6900 XT being a 16 gigabyte GDDR6 RDNA 2 graphics card, AMD's current high-end top-of-the-line graphics card, and I'm totally with you. In fact, it was my first choice over the RTX 3090. I held out, and I had preferred the 6900 XT versus the RTX 3090, but excuse me, fate is out of my control, and I ended up with the RTX 3090 because the 6900 XT very much still hard to find. And just for laughs and giggles, is being sold at about what is this? About a 60 to 70% markup. So yeah, there's that. But it doesn't make this car. I mean, it's more than a reference RTX 3090 at that point. So fragile times we are in right now in terms of recommendations and getting the most for your money, because a lot of the value is destroyed in these cards, just not making them worth what you have to pay. And it just hurts seeing this graphics card, knowing somebody paid $479 for it, and they want to sell it to you for roughly $1,000 USD too. By the way, I do apologize. We are talking in terms of USD. Cliff says, I was told it was like 30-1 stock NVIDIA versus AMD stock back when I asked. Wow, interesting. And it would also explain that those numbers would also explain why GPU miners why they favor NVIDIA graphics cards. My understanding is Ethereum was discovered by GeForce GTX and RTX graphics cards. So the fact that there's more of them on the market would make sense for that currency to favor, those graphics cards. TMZ says, I would have picked up a 6900 XT if I could have picked it up at MSRP. Yeah, absolutely. And Your Highness, I see you check back in. It's good to see you again, Your Highness. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. At $1,000, it was my first choice, and I had a connect, I had an industry connect, that I was able to procure either one of those at MSRP, but I had to act fast, and I kind of skipped over it twice And at the third time, I said I need to just go ahead and pull the trigger because of my luck, I won't be able to, get either one of these high-end graphics cards that are that at least at face value were the talk of the industry or the talk of the community, right? The 6900 XT being AMD's finally, high-end graphics cards, what we wanted the Radeon 7 to be, essentially with its 16 gigabytes of high memory bandwidth. So, it's a graphics card that just hasn't been fabricated enough for there to be enough uh, supply to meet the demand. Demand is so strong for for GPU wafers. It's not just gamers. We talked about that at the beginning of the live stream. It's not just gamers. And Cliff says, thankfully, Ethereum 2.0 is moving from proof of work to proof of stake, hoping that will alleviate. But honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, and it's totally understanding to be pessimistic because we as enthusiasts and gamers, we've been optimistic for so long, right? We've been optimistic for so long. It's just become a part of being a part of this community. It's just one of the many burdens that comes along with holding out for hope for so long about things to get better. Just quote unquote, oh, hopefully they get better. We said this 6 months ago. Here we are. We said that back in December when things like when the 6900 XT launched back in December. Paper launch. 6800 XT slightly earlier, I believe it was September or October. Paper launch. The 3080, the 3070, all paper launches. The 3090, all paper launches essentially. And at the very beginning, so were the Zen 3 CPUs, the Ryzen 5000 desktop CPUs, were all paper launches. At that point, it wasn't just graphics cards. Now, because graphics cards require, memory as well, CPU fabrication has picked up, but GPU fabrication has still slowed down. So, yeah, I mean, totally understandable to be to have that mindset, but um, we'll just have to wait. Cryptocurrency again, it's a market I don't really follow, but we have to wait it out and see what direction it goes in. Interesting stuff nonetheless. And again, if you're just now joining us, welcome to the weekly live Q&A. At any point, if you have any questions about anything we talk about during this conversation or during this revolving the topic, please feel free at any time to jump into the live chat and leave your question, comment, or opinion. And if you're watching on a replay and you're listening out up to this point, do comment down and let me know that you've made it this far. Leave a timestamp. And as well, feel free to ask any questions throughout the duration of this live stream. So we were wrapping up. I just wanted to show you have a glance at the 6700 XT's MSRP. But to segue over into the second part of the conversation, right? The second content block, and that is APUs for the win, or why aren't APUs or CPUs with integrated graphics the talk of the town? Well, AMD did announce their 5700G and 5600G and 5300G, which were originally not intended for the DIY market, but their reviewers and other enthusiasts saw how well they performed on OEM systems. They were saying, hey, AMD, you need to release these CPUs to the DIY market because they are hurting over in the graphics department. And the 5700G with its 8-core and 16-thread and Vega 11 graphics could really supplement that need to fulfill your system, especially if you don't have a graphics card at all, right? And you don't want to take a risk on the used market. Now, CPUs, integrated graphics or APUs, are generally, if you didn't know, they're generally targeted for 1080p low medium settings, right? And in my opinion anyway, and this is almost borderline factual, and it's a better alternative to, either paying for an overpriced, keyword there is overpriced, PS5 and or Xbox Series S or X, which they are still very much being sold in a price range between $900 to $1,200. I'm not even going to, I'm gonna spare you the heartache and the headache of of witnessing those abominable prices, but they too are still selling at a 40% markup on average, 40-50% markup on average, making, destroying any value that even they have as consoles. providing you with a solid alternative route in the form of an APU or CPU with integrated graphics. Sparta Rules 1993, or Anthony says, the sad part is I don't see the GPU shortage going back to normal for like 4 to 5 years. Well, that's uh that's quite an extensive amount of time. Um, I'm curious to know as to what led you to draw, that conclusion that it won't get back to normal for about 4 to 5 years. Um, it could be true, but that puts NVIDIA in a very weird place. We don't know what the branding will be at that point, right? Say in 2027 or 2028. But we can anticipate at least 4090s coming into the picture, right? RTX 4090s, maybe even RTX 5090s. 6090s, I don't think so. Maybe 7090s. Who knows what naming scheme NVIDIA will go with. But 4 to 5 years, I imagine that would put them behind a few generations. Um, and I mean that's just quite a long time. As the Cliff says, I definitely see where you're coming from. I mean, I don't believe it'll be that long, 4 to 5 years, maybe two, and that's mainly because TSMC they're opening up more foundries, so they're investing. They just invested, I believe, it's up to $3 billion over in China's infrastructure to open up more CPU foundries over there to help alleviate some of the demand. So there could be things like that that improves the supply constraint that would make that time not be that long, or it not be at least up to 5 years where graphics cards are back to normal, which back to normal can be subjective. I believe it was Hang himself who said that it really depends on for who and to what degree. When he was asked when does he think the GPU shortage will subside, um, and that could be very much true. It's like going back to normal. What could normal mean? To Nvidia and AMD, things are normal right now. Why are they normal right now? Because their companies are making a profit. They're still, turning quarterly profits into billions. So to them, uh, there's nothing abnormal, right? Nvidia says there's not a supply and demand issue. Demand is just really high. That's all it is. We're fine. We're selling graphics cards. Everything's okay. It's the dog sitting in the middle of the room, meanwhile the room is on fire. To them, they see nothing wrong. Their bottom line isn't affected. Their profit margins isn't affected. But what could change, right? Because somebody's obviously buying these cards, so they're making a profit. But when when you see Nvidia, their CEO, use that kind of language, it's concerning because you're saying, well, do they not recognize there's a supply and demand issue, or is it really just a demand issue where the demand is just high from multiple different industries, the automotive, the console, the PC, right, the DIY segment, and even for OEM partners for them as well. Cliff says, I remember hearing that the 30 series was originally going to be a shorter cycle, and Hopper was the big show, but a little thing called CV19. So I think I might have saw a similar report as AMD or Nvidia was looking to go to a smaller. They were really finally looking to make the jump down to a smaller FinFET process, which I believe that was going to make its way over in Hopper. Anthony said, Sparta Rule says because just to open up a new factory and have it fully operational, it takes 5 years. Right, and I mean, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will take 5 years for the GPU stock to improve, right? It may take 5 years for them to open up a new fabrication foundry or to get it up and running, but that doesn't and that doesn't imply that their current supply strains will continue to seize up. right? What do they do with their current factories that are still operating? They're still producing. They're still producing nodes. They're still producing wafers. They're still producing cards. This is on top of TSMC opening up new foundries. I think, in my opinion, the with the 2020 to 2021 GPU situation, the techdemic, it's not just a matter of cryptocurrency being at an all-time high like it was between 2018, I believe, when graphics cards were. It was like graphics cards and RAM was ridiculously overpriced. But it was between 2017 and 2019 where we suffered a shortage between both of those components. Miners don't have nothing to benefit from RAM being suffering from inflation. The 16 gigabytes of RAM kits were either A, hard to find, or selling for 2 times the price that they're selling for now. You can buy a 16 gigabyte. I just picked up some in Micro Center for under $100. That was not the case during that time period. RAM was really hard to find. Did RAM improve? Yes, it did. Did it take 5 years? Absolutely, positively not. Right? And that's something I talked about in that video, in the Doomsday Clock video. I wanted to talk more about it, but I didn't feel like it was relevant for the video in its entirety. But essentially, I wanted to point out that during the RAM during the RAM shortage, there was no getting around that. During the GPU shortage right now, the GPU shortage is in terms of new inventory. The 5000 series and 20 series and 10 series, they've long been out of circulation and fabrication. They are obsolete in terms of they've been pulled off the assembly line, right? But they're still being sold to this day. They didn't go anywhere. This is in terms of new graphics cards. But when we had the RAM shortage, there was no way of getting around that. You needed RAM to finish your PC, especially if you were on DDR4, which most people at the time, Ryzen was just coming out, right? Most people were on. I remember I had a 32 gigabyte kit that was selling for it was worth $1,100 for 32 gigabytes of Corsair Platinum DDR4 memory. It was insane. And I had other memory just stocked up lying around that, just like now, could have been turned for a profit if I would have sold them on the used market, just because people were in desperate need of RAM. Yeah, they're in desperate need of a graphics card right now, sure, right? But you can get some video signal, depending on the situation, from your system. But you will not get any signal, right? No video signal, no video output. You won't even post without RAM, fam. So this is not this situation is a little bit more unique compared to that situation. But nonetheless, you could not finish your system during the RAM shortage. The RAM shortage didn't take long to straighten itself out. Unlike the RAM shortage, with the GPU shortage, we have the increased popularity and the formation of new cryptocurrencies. Then we have the global pandemic, right? That shut down large portions of the world. And then you have, the semiconductor shortage with so many different other industries requiring these same chips. The automotive, the console, it's not just one factor. It's not just one factor. It's a multitude of many. And it could seem why. I mean, I hear you guys. I hear why that could make sense. Why it could feel like it could take up to 5 years. But you have to understand that these companies couldn't operate long this way. So much like the RAM shortage, I anticipated I said this during that video, and I believe during the live show, I anticipate the prices to drop faster than they rose. I am a firm believer of that. Unpopular belief. I see we all have different, varying opinions on that, and that's a beautiful thing. But I anticipate those prices to drop gradually, if you will, faster than they rose. I believe it was last month or a couple previous live streams, I had mentioned that my best guess would be GPU stock would get back to normal, if you will, about mid-year, mid-quarter, or end of quarter four. So that's about early 2022. That's when I anticipate uh, stock to improve. Also, keep in mind, Sparta rules, that if AMD and NVIDIA are looking to release new architectures in between that time, this frees up fabrications and for different GPUs to be either converted from higher end 3090s to say 3080s or 3080 Ti's, and graphics cards that were unable to cut it as 3070s could be fabricated into 3060s and 3060 Ti's, as they will look to move to fabricate a newer architecture, right? Let's use Hopper, for example, or RDNA 3, which AMD says they are very much on a roadmap to achieving the next iteration of their graphics card microarchitecture. That being, their refined RDNA 2. So when AMD and NVIDIA is ready to fabricate their next generation of GPUs, what's going to happen to the GPUs who weren't able to cut it as, say, 40 series cards, like a 4070, a 4060 may turn into, say, a 3060 or maybe a 3070 or 3080. You see where I'm getting at now? You see where I don't believe why it would take 5 years? For that reason, if AMD and NVIDIA would look to fabricate the next generations of graphics cards between the next 5 years, they're either going to offload as many wafers, as many Ampere wafers that they can to free up inventory for Hopper, and AMD will likely follow suit to make way for RDNA 3. So getting back to normal could be kind of subjective, because what does normal really look like? Does normal mean I can go to I could go to Micro Center, not Micro Center, they don't ship online, but say a B&H or Amazon.com. Can I maybe get lucky once a month and pick up CN RTX 3060, even just green in stock? Think about it, fam. Think about it, y'all. When's the last time you saw a graphics card that said in stock? No matter what the graphics card was. No matter what it was. Right? And back to normal, again, what could back to normal mean? Does that mean lower prices? Right? Does back to normal mean we'll see previous older generation cards being sold at their fair market value or at their fair market price? Is that normal? Because I don't think that would take 5 years. So normal could be subjective, right? Normal could be subjective. And of course, I could be wrong. It could take 5 years. But even if it did, imagine the changes of architecture, right? In between those 5 years. Would you really be looking for a 3090 in 5 years? That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. Tricion, it's good to see you, Tricion. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. TMZ says, let me get caught up really fast, because TMZ says, the Mrs. Zomify says, TSMC just broke ground for a new fab in Arizona. The states, I started reading that article, but I had to stop. But you're right. They're looking to open up a new fabrication site here over in the U.S., which is, I mean, that's a good thing. They also, I mentioned earlier, they were also opening up a new foundry, a new fabrication site over in China as well. And again, this is not only to just help the people. We can't, friends and fam, we can't be selfish here, y'all. This isn't just about PC gamers. We have the automotive industry that's looking for, that's in, that is in demand of these chips. You have our console brothers and sisters over on Sony and Microsoft who play on the consoles, because we love consoles here. Consoles have a purpose, but PCs have character. I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm not into that. And if you're here and that's your thing, talk to me. Don't leave, because I love every single one of y'all, and I hate losing I hate losing community members. But if that's you, talk to me. Well, let's get to the bottom of it, because we shouldn't bash anybody. We shouldn't bash anybody. Whatever you're comfortable with playing on, whatever the platform that is right for you, that is right for you. But here in this community, our goal is to lead you over into the pinnacle that is PC gaming, but not to tell you or not to bash you for wanting to game on a console. But our console brothers and sisters who maybe have been, I mean, think about it, being stuck on the PS4 and there being no other alternative options to upgrade your hardware outside of storage to improve your end user experience on that console, on the PS4 or the Xbox, the OG Xbox, for example, right? You are stuck on inadequate, outdated hardware. It was outdated when it was available to the public, right? But you are on outdated hardware with no way of upgrading unless it's to a whole nother console or over onto the PC platform, right? Those are your only alternatives. So our console brothers and sisters, the automotive industry, other cell phone industry, they're all suffering from the semiconductor shortage as well. And it's not just gamers that are in need. Yeah, we want graphics cards, but it's essentially that sweet silicone that's in such high demand that's being required by other industries. We are being affected as well. But and then Tricion, or I'm sorry, Cliff says, and we talked about this on Twitter. Sorry, let me jump back up. I do apologize. Cliff said Intel is expanding 2 billion in Nevada fabs and a new one in Ireland. Nice. It sounds like Nevada we might have to move to Nevada, Mrs. Ma. What do you say? Moving to Nevada? No. All right, she's not for it. I mean, we can't do our tour, our foundry tour. That's not going to happen. Or maybe once things get back to normal. Even think about people whose jobs rely on them traveling. Can you imagine what back to normal may look like for them? Right? Back to normal may not even be a thing, right? Maybe it's not back to normal. Perhaps it's the new norm, right? My theory is PC gaming, it has always been expensive. It's always been the argument. It's one that's always been presented to me when I tried to have this conversation with some friends, local friends, and even people I worked with in the past. Is that PC gaming is too expensive. I can't afford that. PC gaming has always been expensive. It's the premium is at an all-time high. That cost, the barrier to the cost to entry is at an all-time high, right? It just costs more. And Cliff says, and we talked about this on Twitter. Countries are seeing it as a weakness being over reliance on Asian fabs. We can't be so reliant on TSMZ. I mean, I totally agree. And a market where I'm a firm believer of a fair market, and it's good that TMZ wants to kind of spread out their fabrication sites and bring one here over to the States. That would also help with tariffs, right? This would also not have tariffs and tax increases affect new MSRP like it has now currently, because we still rely on all of those products and inventory to be shipped into the U.S. So, excuse me, totally agree with you, Cliff. And Tricion, it's good to see you, T. I was trying to get to you to invite you on. It's good to see you, Tricion. Tricion says, "Yo, have y'all seen these massive drops in GPU prices too?" Not necessarily. Tricion, do share. Let me get caught up here unless you do share where you've seen them at. Tricion says, "I love to see it." Yo, Lab, do you have any idea how to check if an NVIDIA GPU is LHR or not before trying it? No. No, but I tell you what, Tracy, I might be able to help you with that. Send me a message after the live stream. Send me a message after the live stream. Sorry I got to that late if you still need help with that. And that's only because I'm trying to keep it. We normally don't have our live streams on Sunday, and I don't like to. I don't want to hold you guys and gals on this beautiful Sunday. Again, I do apologize for flexing it over to a Sunday, as I had got my second vaccine. And I didn't have any adverse effects, but I was a little fatigued, and I didn't think it would have been right. I didn't have the right energy, and it wasn't the right vibes to sit down and go live. So if I don't feel it here, if I don't have the energy, if I don't feel it right here in the heart, then I don't think it's worth it to go live, right? Because energy is such an important part of the interaction. But moving on, let me get caught up here really fast in the chat before we jump down to our next segment. As Cliff says, normal to me is money in pocket, being able to walk in the Micro Center and buy what my budget allows me. That's back to normal, or bask to normal. Yeah, I mean, I might be slurring my words there. It might sound like I'm saying bask, but um, Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I use that example with just being able to sit down for, say, those who are unable to physically go to a micro center, but the savings are impeccable compared to even Amazon, right? I drove to Valley City. Valley City is an old department store, but I drove to Micro Center yesterday simply because, for one, the part I needed off Amazon wouldn't have got here until like 10, 14 days later, and it was about $80 more. I was like, skirt, Mrs. Mod, we didn't have time before the vaccination appointment because they had bumped us up unexpectedly. So I had to race down there afterwards, and then when I came back, I was like, man, I am just like, whew, but I really needed to get down there and jump on that. But totally understandable. Back to normal to me as well is more so when I can jump over to the used market. A good sign of the marketplace returning to normal is the used market having prices that reflect the graphics card's actual fair market price and what they're actually worth. For for example, and I'll jump back here really fast to demonstrate this, but 5700 XTs, 5700 XTs should really be selling no more than like maybe 200-300 bucks, fam. Really, if things were even back to normal-ish and say high-end cards weren't available, because that's normally been the case, like high-end graphics cards were hard to find. That's because they use faster memory. For example, the 3090 and the 3080 Ti and 3080 uses GDR6 memory, GDR6X memory. But if 3060s were available, where like, yeah, you can go in there and hey, 300-400 bucks on the 3060, right? That would make the 8 gigabyte 5700 XT on the used market selling for at least $200 to $300. I wouldn't pay no more than $300. And under normal circumstances in a normal marketplace, I wouldn't pay over $300 for a 5700 XT, for 8 gigabyte 5700 XT. That's really pushing it. Even then, I'd say maybe 250, right? Somewhere along the lines of a 1660 Ti, right? But yeah, that's back to normal to me. Could I jump over to the used market, right, with 300 bucks and find previous generation value, right? Like an RTX 2060 should be about a $200 to $250 graphics card, right now, even right now. Before the big boom, and I had one I should have just pulled the trigger. I had one over on eBay. I was in a bidding war, and it broke like 250, and I was like, oh, this is pushing it even for at that time. I was like, man, $250 for a 2060. This is pushing it. But I really wish I would have pulled the trigger. If with a little bit of hindsight, 2020, I wouldn't have maybe sold a lot of my cards. Right? I had a GTX 970. You all might have saw it in some of my earlier work, the RX 570 versus the GTX 970. Right? We compared those two graphics cards at 1080p. I paid I got the 970 from a local friend in a bundle deal, which equated to costing me about 45. It cost about $45 because I got it with an SSD and an AIO, all for about 120 bucks. So the graphics card maybe cost me 60 bucks. Can you imagine 60 bucks? And then the RX 570 I bought off Craigslist for $75. I talked about this in that video. It was a fun experiment. It's a fun experiment. If you want to watch some of my older stuff and laugh at the format, laugh at me, just put an LOL at the comment section. It's going to help with the algorithm. But that video was zesty, fam. I tell you what, those graphics cards I let go at a steal. Even now, as RX 570s are selling for about $200 to $300, and GTX 970s at about the same, about 100 to 200, $200 to $300. So that's way beyond normalcy for those graphics cards. And even the 5700 XT selling for, let's jump here really fast again. I ain't gonna hold y'all none, but let's look at it here really fast because they not selling for 200 to 300 bucks, that's for sure. But 800, so $900 for a 5700 XT. $900 for a ref for an add-in board partner 5700 XT. So this is a gigabyte gaming OC edition. So slightly overclocked, slightly faster on the engine clocks. Biggest difference between that and its reference counterpart. See if we can find a reference 5700 XT. Here we go. $800 on a 1 hour left bid. So this is about equaling it out to what most of this graphics card, what we're seeing here, sell for about $900 to $1,000. Is the 5700 XT worth it? At this price point, Hex to the nah, fam. Come on. This is a 6900 XT essentially, y'all. So to me, back to normal is seeing this graphics card at what it should be priced and what it's actually worth, and that's no more than $300. That's even still pushing it for this graphics card. Okay, regardless if it's a reference or an add-in board, an add-in board partner variant. There's other factors like, do you have the original packing? Has it been overclocked? Is it a clean card? Have you had to reapply the thermal paste? Other factors that may contribute to the cost of the card. But at the end of the day, this card is valued for no more than over $300. Not what you see it, priced newer than what the current gen is worth. And this is in a 6700 XT won't even cost you this. So this is right now selling for about as much as a 6700 XT will cost, or about the same. So to me, normalcy is seeing graphics cards like the 5700 XT, even the 5600 XT, right? Even the 5060 RDNA, the RDNA 2 lower tiered graphics card, right? Which comes in a 8 and 6 gigabyte VRAM buffer. Even this graphics card is not worth $600. It's just not. This is more than an RTX 3070 with more VRAM, slightly faster VRAM. No, this graphics card is not worth it at this price point. This absolutely positively destroys and diminishes the value. So this is normal to me. This is seeing these graphics cards at what they're worth. And another graphics card we talked about was the GTX 970, which this is in relation to to last week's live stream where we talked about graphics cards, what category of graphics cards to be in to get a graphics card that has multi-monitor support, that can play some of the latest games, which allows you to stream using your CPU, but then render, your games on your graphics card. But even this graphics card, not worth $260. Again, I sold mine for $95, y'all. Ouch. It was a bid on eBay. I sold it for $95, and that hurt. Matter of fact, it was this one here. It was the MSI GTX 970. If you watch that video, you'll see it. It's this bad boy right here, and of course the RX 570. So again, I sold mine for under $100. As you can see here, it's going for 50. It's marked up 50% versus the cost when I sold mine. It's not worth this price point. I mean, there's no new alternative you can buy. There's no GPU class below the $300 range, which I think was a huge void opportunity missed out by NVIDIA. But you have to understand how economics works, and that NVIDIA is essentially a business, and they are in it to make money. They can make more money by fabricating an RTX 3090 or an RTX 3080 than they could by, say, fabricating a 3050 Ti or an RTX 3050, which in my opinion is what's really missing in this market segment, is graphics cards that are under $300. But guess what, Lab fam? Wouldn't matter, because the tech demic tells us that theoretical $249 RTX 3050 Ti would likely be costing you $600 right now, which wouldn't make that graphics card worth it unless it maybe had 6 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory, which I doubted at that point. Let me get caught up really fast here in the chat. I see we had a few more folks join in, and as you're joining us, I just want to welcome you to our weekly Inside the Lab live Q&A show. If this is your first time here, I do want to remind you, or I do want to, I guess, inform you that this is an interactive live stream. So at any point, do feel free to ask your questions over in the live chat. Leave them over in the live chat. We have a lot of helpful community members that are always willing to share their expertise or share their opinions and share their knowledge, add their commentary to the conversation at hand. And if you haven't yet, for starters, hit the like button on your way in or on your way out if you're unable to stay. And of course, if you haven't yet, do join us, or do join our community by smashing that subscribe button down below. Join our community, subscribe for the good times, subscribe for the vibes, subscribe for the message. But we are essentially following up from last week's video, and that is the Doomsday Clock. The Doomsday Clock hands have been triggered, or they have been on the move. The Doomsday Clock is on the move. And so in that video, which is pinned at the top of the live chat. If you haven't seen it yet, it's about a 9 to 10 minute long video. We'll still be here for a while. So if you want to, start at the two-part miniseries, start the two-part miniseries the right way, you're going to want to start off by either watching this video at the end of this live stream or jumping over and watching it now. If you do head over there to this video, do be sure to show that video some love by tapping the like button and of course leaving your thoughts on the video down in the comment section below. It really helps get the video in front of so many people. And then for the sake of this live show, we are following up with the aftermath, the fate of PC gaming. So we've talked about how the Doomsday Clock has been triggered, right? And how the PC gaming as a platform continues to shrink or has had its growth be stagnated, right? Due to the issues that plague the marketplace. There's a multitude of them. There's just not one. You got the semiconductor shortage. You got the demand is high from multiple industries. And then you have the global pandemic, which has really seized up some supply constraints. Now, for those of you who just joined us, you came in, we were talking about graphics card prices and when we perceive the market to get back to normal. And everybody from, Sparta Rules and XLR Gaming, Cliff Bad Habit, TMZ, we all shared some interesting opinions and thoughts. And I welcome you at any point to join in. There is no such thing as a wrong answer, and there's no such thing as a wrong opinion. All opinions are valued and welcome. That is for sure. And now let me get really caught up really fast here in the chat. Really fast. Let me see. Sorry. Sparta Rule says that's why I see it going to take 5 years, because there's such a high demand from so many industries, and those factories are going to take time to build and get running. Yeah, that's very much a possibility. But in between that time period, right? Like in between that time frame, we will see newer architectures take precedence over previous architectures, right? So NVIDIA is going to want to start fabricating their Hopper process, even in its conceptual days, right? Or even in its design phase. NVIDIA is going to want to start fabricating Hopper, and AMD is going to want to start fabricating RDNA 2. What does that mean? That doesn't mean that those graphics, the next architectures will be available, but that does mean, in my opinion, that previous generations like 6000 series and RTX 30 series graphics cards will become more available, as the cards will stop being produced per se, but whatever wafers are left, if they can't if they can't pass validation tests, then they will be binned into a lower generation tier. So what that could mean is, in between that time period, we may not see the next generation of cards, but the current generation of cards will become available in a time period where I said it's more akin to, say, Q4 of next year, as that's when these companies look to, improve their profit margins for the next quarter, for Q1, which typically means new product, right? Not banking on previous generation product, right? Not like saying, hey, telling their shareholders, hey, don't worry, we got the 30 series still selling strong. They need something new, right? Something new to appeal to their shareholders. That's going to be in the form of newer architectures, but could be wrong. We all could be wrong, but I think most of us would hope to imagine it doesn't take 5 years, but again, could be wrong. TMZ says, I got a pre-order Xbox X and I game on PC. What does that make me? That makes you a person who likes, you appreciate the accessibility of a console, but the prowess of a PC. That's what that makes you. Oh man, good stuff. And Triceon says RTX 3070s used to start at around 1450 euro, and now they start at 950 euro, and not higher than 13 euro. 3080s can be found starting from 1600 euro now too. So that's awesome. So I see you're seeing the effects of inflation. Maybe they haven't caught up with you yet, but I could be wrong. But it doesn't matter, because lower prices over in the graphics marketplace is a good sign. It's a welcoming sign. Keep us posted, Tricion, on how that trend continues to develop. And Cliff said 5700 XT is such a great all around card. Absolutely. And Cliff said that was highway robbery, referring to, I imagine Cliff's referring to the prices of the 5700 XT. It's just insane. It's heartbreaking. Again, that's a graphics card that at $300, I'm like, is it an add-in board? Because your boy Lab, obviously, I will test them night and day. I will always willing to test hardware, especially if it's sent to me from larger companies. But listen, I'm not the biggest personal fan of reference cards, and I like to overclock, which could be a little challenging on a reference model. But I would $300 is like the ceiling I would want to pay for a 5700 XT, and that's even like by 2021 standards, you're like, this is a lot for a card that costs $400 at MSRP. It hasn't retained its value that much. If there were, if the better options were available in that $400 price point, you would obviously go with, say, an RTX 3060 or even an RTX 3060 Ti. TMZ says Pepper Ridge Farms remembers when we could get GPUs at reasonable prices. That's funny. Pepper Ridge Farms. I'm trying to get the joke, man. It might have went over my head, TMZ, but Pepper Ridge. It sounds familiar, like it's in a commercial or something. But I'm thinking about this local farm we get our milk from. It's supposed to be like not organic, but straight from the cow, no chemicals added, right in a bottle. But that's the first thing that I think about every time. Now I'm thinking about that milk because it was really good. And Cliff says, "Yep, I remember paying $370 for my reference 5700 XT at Micro Center." And Joe says, "Nice discussion." Hey, Joe, it's good to see you. Joe over from Instagram. I believe I do recognize your name. Joe says, "Nice discussion." Hey, the discussion is only possible, it's made possible with community members such as yourself, Joe, and Anthony, Sparta Rules, and TMZ, and Cliff, and everybody that's joined us here for this live show. Sorry, I had to take a sip there. I had to wet the whistle. But Trisan says, "Yeah, I will share the prices, bro." Yeah, definitely keep us, informed over on the Discord. And hey, if you're not in the Discord yet, what are you waiting for? You're gonna want to sign up for the email list. If you weren't present for our housekeeping segment, you can get the invite list for our community Discord by either hitting me up over on Instagram, right? Send me a DM, let me know that you're on the email list, and maybe you didn't get the link, and I will send you the link over in the DM, or you can sign up for the email list because I will send the next batch of invite links out. We had a few friends join us, and would love to get more of you over there on the Discord. And TMZ says, "Yeah, it was an old commercial." I knew it. Like, I'm hearing them like there's a bit of nostalgia coming back that I just remember hearing that name. It's triggering like some commercial moments. But a $370 reference 5700 XT, like that was new prices. I just want to add to that. You would consider yourself a lucky individual if you could even walk into a Micro Center right now and pick up a 5700 XT for $370. Like even right now, that wouldn't be a bad option, right? Especially if it's if it was new prices, all things considered, where we are in the 2020 2021 tech demic, right? That's not a bad price to walk into a Micro Center. That's about $30 to $40 less than MSRP. Now, Micro Center, for those of you who don't know, you can procure some really huge savings over at Micro Center, largely in part because they don't ship their components. So you do have to go there, but you can save quite a little bit of coin by picking up your parts from over there. CPU, RAM, cases, all what have you. Oh, don't even get me started on everybody's favorite area, that used secondhand shelf. But all good stuff. And I tell you what, let's get back onto the conversation of graphics cards as we're talking about the fate of PC gaming. We were switching over. We were talking about APUs or CPUs with integrated graphics. These CPUs are typically targeted for 1080p low medium settings. And like I mentioned earlier, what eventually got us down that rabbit hole is that I was mentioning that it's usually a better alternative than going with a console. And that's still very much the case even to this day, because a new PS5 or an Xbox Series SX would run you between $900 to $1,200 for one of those consoles. Now, let's say you didn't want to go that route and you wanted to go with a CPU that we talked about in a previous live stream, right? Which you can find the Amazon links to these two CPUs over on that live stream. And at the end of this live stream, I'll be sure to throw it down in the description box for anybody that's interested. They are Amazon affiliate links, and they do help me in a small but impactful way in terms of building revenue streams around the content. But if you are willing to go that direction of paying $9 to $1,200 for a console, consider this. Consider either the Ryzen 3 Zen Plus 3200G or 3400G, 500 gigabyte M.2 NVMe SSD, and this, with your power supply unit, your case, on all your rest of your components, you're looking at at least a build of under $700, right? At least under $700. And then you could also upgrade that to, say, a 3400G by adding about $200 more, because the 3400G is about $278 on Amazon, with the 3200G being $178 on Amazon. Now, this will put you somewhere in between a GTX 1030 and a 1050, somewhere in between there. And before you say, wait a minute, Lab, nobody wants to play on integrated graphics. You can't do any serious gaming on integrated graphics. Contrary to the belief, you actually can. You also have the upcoming 5700. Let me switch here. The 5700G and 5600G, right, for $359 and $259. Now, you tell me. I'm curious to know, because I've seen some arguments and gripes in the community about this being too high, right? Like AMD is kind of pricing the 5700G and 5600G and subsequent 5300G a little too high for what you get. But the 5700G will likely be somewhere along the lines of maybe a 550, right? A 570 with its Vega 11 onboard graphics. Now, who is this meant for, or who is this intended for? Because keep in mind, AMD, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream, AMD had no intentions at first on releasing or making these CPUs available to the DIY market. That says a lot with even AMD's perceived notion that when things will get back to normal, when they will be able to meet, demand, even if it's on a small fraction, right? Now, the 5700G and the 5600G is set to launch August 5th, and using a similarly spec system, so 16 gigabytes of DDR4, your power supply unit, your case, and we're talking about a power supply unit with at least 750 watts overhead, so you can save room and have enough space to add a dedicated video card, either a 20 series or a 30 series video card. You could build a similarly spec system for under $1,000, still at about what it would cost you for a console, going with either one of these CPU configurations. Rather, that's the 6-core 12-thread 5600G or the 8-core 16-thread 5700G for $359. Now, do you think that's a lot of money? Do you think there's any value in either of these two CPUs? And remember, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. This is merely just, your opinion, and part of the reasons why I wanted to format this live show like this, like here. And that's because I think that, me personally, I don't think that they are overpriced. I don't. Now, if they launch and they are scalped for anything other than their MSRP, then quite naturally, yes, they are not worth it. For example, if the 5700G launches and it's selling for about $499 over on the market, where you can't find it new, but you can, jump over to the secondhand markets, Facebook and eBay and Craigslist, and offer up, and you can find it there from private sellers for $400. No, it's not worth it at that point, right? It's not worth it anything other than its MSRP. The 5600G with a $259 price point, fam, that's a $120 B550 motherboard you can pair this with, right? And again, who would that be for? APUs, which do stick around, because I'm done talking about it, fam. We are going to actually walk through it. We are going to live it. But you know, APUs like the 3200G, and believe it or not, the 2200G as well, right? And the 2400G, they are perfect for light 1080p gaming, right? Medium to low settings, it really depends on the game. If it's a graphically demanding game like Assassin's Creed Origins, then you may need to lower the resolution. It's one of the recommendations I suggest when I have somebody come to me and they say, "Hey, my game is like," you might have heard me give this recommendation here on the live shows. I say lower your resolution down, right? Drop your resolution to either 1280 by 720p, and then start from there and then slowly scale it up. You have a wide range of resolutions to choose from in between there that would still present a near better experience than a console, especially like your PS4 and your PS4 Pro and your Xbox, your OG Xbox. You have resolutions like 1366 by 768p or 1440 by 900p, which is like what some of the previous generation consoles scaled their games at. They were like 900p, and then they're just upscaled to 1080p. You very much could, do this same thing. This is applying the band-aid on the bullet wound. Like, absolutely, right? Absolutely. But you're limited here. You're limited here, but only by the resolution and your refresh rate, not your ability to actually play games. The key here is compromising until the GPU market is in a better place. Notice how I didn't say normal, because this is again a band-aid on the bullet wound. Not to wait until things get back to normal, but to wait until they are in a better place. You're on, say, a newer chipset, B500 or X500 series chipset, right? You're on a newer architecture like Zen Plus or Zen 3 APU like the 5700G. So you have a platform that's well configured, well set up, and all you have to do is add your dedicated graphics card down the road. Some of your most popular games can be ran on potato-like hardware. Dare I say it? That's a word you don't hear me say a lot because I'm not a big fan of it. I don't really say it much because even potatoes have their place. But some of the most popular games that most users who want their systems built, they're games that aren't too graphically demanding. They're your Minecraft, your Fortnite, Destiny 2, CS:GO, just to name a few. I mean, GTA 5. It's games like that that aren't too graphically demanding and that very much could be played on a similar setup. That if you're willing to pay $900 to $1,200 for a console, then you could have never admitted that PC gaming, excuse me, is an expensive endeavor, right? Because a console isn't worth $1,200. But 3 years ago, if I said, hey, if you really want to get into PC gaming, and you as a console gamer really want to build a well-defined, powerful system. Hey, fam, you want to start with a budget of 1,200? Oh, 1,200 is too much money. I can't do it. PC gaming is so expensive. But then here you find yourself, paying that for a console. So why not a PC from the jump? It's always been expensive. Console games or consoles in general are in a very rare place with their position in this whole situation, because at one point again consoles held better, kind of held the gaming community, if you will, better together when we went through these droughts, when we went through GPU droughts like this. Again, it's a band-aid on the bullet wound, but you're only limited by the resolution and your frame rate, not your ability to actually play games. You could very much build a system under $1,000 with either a 3200G or as high up as a 5700G. You might need to tweak some things, as you will likely be over $1,000, but you're definitely looking at a well-rounded system that is really missing a dedicated video card to really put it over the edge into what it could be, right? Sparta Rule says, I'm betting the 5700G is going to have performance to a Xbox One S or One X, which is not really bad. Yeah, I mean it could be. No, it wouldn't be bad at that point. It wouldn't be at that point, but even those consoles, like for example the Xbox One S, right, was likely on redefined bulldozer technology. And we're looking at a chip with integrated graphics that is competing with hardware from like 3 years ago. So I would imagine maybe since the consoles are on custom OSs and they're like running custom hardware, they're able to achieve a little more, right, in terms of how they can scale their games and get away with like image quality tricks and hacks. But absolutely, that's kind of where I put the 5700G as well, to be able to compete with consoles at 1080p high settings for maybe 60 FPS plus or more gaming, again depending on the game. If it's a graphically demanding game like Assassin's Creed or any open world game, you may need to lower the resolution. Cliff says, "Gotta run, homie. Stay awesome. Great show as always." Yeah, absolutely, Cliff. Cliff, I'm not sure if you're still with us, but it was great having you on board, Cliff, and appreciate it. Triceon2 says, "See ya. I'm gonna go in a minute too. Gotta wake up early." Yes, our guy Triceon's over in the Netherlands, and it's pretty late there. But not appreciate it again. This is an unorthodox stream, normally not on a Sunday, and I know you, ladies and gentlemen, have so many other important tasks and obligations, but we're moving along here in the conversation. But I do appreciate everybody that is able to stay. Again, I want to remind you, if you haven't yet, to hit the like button on your way in or on your way out. But yeah, I mean, the key here again is compromising until the GPU market is in a better place. This is likely more so for gamers who, like Sparta Rules was mentioning, that are on older consoles. Even, let's say, not even the Xbox One S, right? Like you're on the PS4, not even Pro, just like the OG PS4, and you want more FPS, right? You want more FPS, or you want to enjoy games at a higher fidelity. Maybe you want to try 1440 by 900p high settings, right? This again depends on the game. Really take a second and analyze the type of games you play, and then using their minimum and required specs or minimum and recommended specs as a roadmap to help you with your buying decision. If you haven't yet seen that conversation, if you weren't present for that live stream, I highly recommend that you jump down into the description box below after this live stream. Jump down to the most recent playlist. I believe it's down there. Or if not, head over to the homepage and check out the most recent playlist for our live streams and watch that conversation, because we talked about the significance of researching your game's specs before buying your games and even before settling on your hardware. If you know off the back or off the jump that your main interest off top, like, no matter what, say, hey, you know what? I just really want to play Minecraft. Right now, I'm just really big on Minecraft. I play on my PS4, but it's laggy, the graphics suck, and it's getting old, and maybe your PS4 stopped working, right? Maybe it's reached the end of its life cycle. Triceon, I see you said you got to go. Triceon says, I see you later. Yeah, Triceon, we'll catch you over in the Discord, fam. Thanks for hanging out with us. Good night to you. Um, but uh, again, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought as we was signaling out Triceon. But again, I mean, these are valid options, alternatives for console gamers who are stuck on previous older generation hardware, who obviously you can't upgrade the core specs of your console. You can't add more memory. You can't add a faster CPU. You sure as heck can't do anything in the graphic department. This can be a viable option for you, especially if you're like really tight with your budget and you're saying, I'm only at a cool $1,000, or maybe I need to be somewhere underneath there, like maybe 800. So you say, I'll opt in for the Vega 8 5600G, more aching for my budget. I can save about $100. Go with the lower end chipset. Maybe I only need 8 gigabytes of RAM. I just want a system. I want to get into PC gaming. I want some of the other benefits. And being able to change your settings or tweak your settings to conform around your playstyle is a huge benefit, is a huge plus to being on this platform, right? To being a PC gamer. Now, we talked about APUs, right? We talked about, where's the value in the market where the product is listed for more than it's worth. But I think it's only appropriate we jump into the third content block with surviving the great GPU drought, or we are in a in a graphics card market that is wrecked and will continue to suffer largely in part due to the semiconductor shortage, strong demand, and opportunists taking advantage of the situation. It's If you are a regular viewer here, then this conversation or this topic, you are no stranger to it. In fact, the more we give attention to it, right, the more harder and dire the situation seems, right? Like Sparta Rule said, hey, I don't think it's going to, we might not see things back to normal for 5 years. And that could be the case. It could be two, could be three, right? What does that mean for PC gaming, though? It just means that the premium and cost to entry is at an all-time high, due to all of those things I just mentioned, right? The semiconductor shortage, the strong demand, right? And opportunists, of course, taking advantage of the situation. All of those combining factors have made that cost to entry, right? The premium at, at an all-time high. It's always been high. Excuse me. Getting into PC gaming has always been expensive, right? There's the meme that, oh, PC gamer, makes fun of $300 console, $1,200 PC gamer makes fun of $300 console gamer. Well, we're not just really making fun of the console gamer. We're just reminding them that our hardware costs more, ergo it should perform better. Uh, I'm not a big fan of the hardware brag in that terms. I'm like, well, if your system costs X amount of more money, then it should perform better. I bought a BMW. You have a Mercedes. If your Mercedes costs more than my BMW, then it should run better, look better, and have more features, right? But I digress. But the premium and cost to entry has always been high. PC gaming has always been high. How has this hurted the platform, right? PC gaming as a platform? Well, we have a lot of unfinished builds sitting around, waiting for a video card, or gamers stuck on GTX video cards. It's becoming all too common. I will see it on message boards. I'll see it on Twitter. I'll see it on Instagram, on other manufacturer sites. I'll see it over on, like, say, um, NVIDIA's marketing material, their videos. We'll see it over there. I mean, it's really affected a lot of people, and it's left their builds unfinished. That's because, say they set aside a budget of $1,300, that already had a GPU, earmarked from that budget before the techdemic, right? So before graphics cards went up by 40 and 50%, that puts that individual far outside of their budget, that they either have to save up to compensate for that markup, or shift their hardware philosophy altogether and go with a different graphics card that wasn't originally intended for that system. This in itself can have greater implications, because you may have opted in for a fast i7 or a Ryzen 9 CPU. So you want to make sure you pair it with a fast graphics card, right? Maybe you wanted to take advantage of PCIe 4.0, right? So many different factors to take into consideration. I did, for just fun and giggles, but I did throw together this meme video here. Let me see if I can doing some live troubleshooting here. That's not supposed to be that way. There we go. Just some memes here to kind of lighten the mood. Some of the best ones I found, because there's an abundance of value-oriented CPUs available on the marketplace, right? CPUs, you can find CPUs. It's not as bad as it was when Zen 3 first launched, right? A lot of builders, again, were able to buy their motherboard, buy their CPU, buy their RAM, buy their case, buy their power supply unit, right? Or you already had a system, maybe you had a 6th generation i7 or a 7th generation i7, like a Kaby Lake or Skylake CPU, and you wanted to switch your platform and your GPU all together. Maybe you wanted to do a complete platform hop all at the same time. New graphics card, new motherboard, new CPU, right? You were likely able to get your hands on the CPU and motherboard, but then now when you come to the graphics card, no dice, right? You're out of luck. There's plenty of CPUs available, which should indicate how different the two processors work, or how different the architectures truly are, because there are, we can head over to Micro Center, we'll see 25 plus in stock, right? 5600Xs and 5800Xs. Those CPUs stock has just improved, right? Like they have just gotten better. 5950X is still a little hard to come by, and what AMD classifies as their fastest gaming CPU, that is the 5900X, that CPU as well, still a little hard to come by. But there are fast quality CPUs available on the market. The same cannot be said for CPUs, right? Or I'm sorry, for GPUs. Even on the lower end scale, you would think that we would have, yeah, 6700 XTs, RTX 3060s, 3060 Ti's, 3070s, but no, it's just not the case. GPU wafers, GPU dies are just hard to come by. They really are. And it remains to be said that, or remains to be seen that the higher the resolution, right? I love that one. But the higher the resolution and refresh rate, the more the premium. So if you want to say play Doom Eternal at 1440p, 60 FPS, you're going to pay more for your system. At that point, you are likely looking at a graphics card that's suffering from that marked up price, right? Like that 30 to 40% marked up price. If you're looking at 4K 60 FPS, right? Again, the higher the resolution, and more so the resolution especially, the higher the resolution, the more of that premium you're going to have to pay to enjoy that resolution and refresh rate. From integrated graphics to say a GT 1030 or even a GTX 1050 Ti or 1050, your graphics needs could boil down to how demanding the games you want to play and how you want to play them. Is that Minecraft, right? Maybe you don't even care. You just want to jump. You say, hey, I don't even want to play my settings. I just want to make sure I can run this game. Like, can I run this game? That's what matters to me the most. Same thing would say you want to play Destiny 2. Maybe you have a wide category of games. Overwatch, games like that. Fam, if it can run decent enough on a PS4 and you want to say use an APU as applying the band-aid on the bullet wound, right? Definitely would be able to get a better or have a better experience over on a PC. You just would, and you have better options to enhance that experience that you just don't or wouldn't get with especially an OG PS4 or an Xbox One or Xbox One S, not a Series SX, but geez, Microsoft sure as heck did not help anything with their naming scheme, right? But nonetheless, your GPU, hot commodity, the higher the resolution and refresh rate, the more the premium you're going to have to pay to be able to experience that, resolution and refresh rate. So let's jump over here. Tell you what, let's jump into our final thoughts, aka our wrap up, because as a platform, the future is unknown, and it's in control of the manufacturers and the retailers. The companies who fabricate and assemble the graphics cards, and the stores and online centers who either sell them or shelve them, right? Who put them on their shelves and make them available to consumers, a la Micro Center. Now, what you are in control of, is the type of games you play and how you wish to play them. That's an experience that's relative to really only you. I play at a higher resolution and at an uncommon ratio, 21:9 aspect ratio, and 3440 by 1440p. So when it comes to my experience as a gamer, I start there immediately. I make sure the game either one has support for that aspect ratio, and that I have a capable enough graphics card to power that resolution in whatever the refresh rate the monitor is. And in this example here, my Mag 341CQ is a 100 hertz VA panel. So, and again, that's at 3440 by 1440p. But you are in control of the type of games you want to play and how you want to play them, how well you want them to run, or how well you want them to look, right? That's the one thing that the manufacturers and the retailers don't have a control over. They can't tell you how to run your game, what resolution, what graphic settings to run your game. To run your games, I guess. I don't just want to limit it to say just one. This can be had on both your desktop and your in-game settings by doing things like dropping your resolution down to 1280 by 720p. If you're coming from the console generation, you've really only been experiencing your games at an upscaled resolution, say from either 900p upscaled to 1080p or 720p upscaled to 1080p. That's how you've been experiencing your games. So it's not uncommon to lower your resolution, right, to make up for that or to compensate for that. It's a possibility that's out of reach for current and previous generation console gamers. That's something I mentioned earlier in this live show. And that's something I wanted to follow up again, because going that route with, say, an integrated graphics or an integrated CPU with onboard graphics like the 3200G or the 3400G or the 2400G or the 2200G or the upcoming 5700G or 5600G or 5300G, which is scheduled to launch on August 5th. That's just a month away, fam, give or take, or a little more, but it's right around the corner. Right around the corner. We will see those CPUs likely in stock before any other ones come into fruition anytime soon, especially here halfway through, or only being halfway through the 2021. So consider it a necessary evil instead of a nuance, something to understand and not to ignore. That's your in-game graphic settings and your resolution, right? Don't look at it as like it's, oh man, it's another caveat that I have to familiarize myself with to enjoy the platform, to be a PC gamer. Maybe you hired somebody to build your system because you say, you know what, I don't even want to do it. The nuances of building and installing the CPU and knowing where to put the input output headers onto the motherboard and fan configuration, all that good jazz is perfectly fine. But when it comes to managing your in-game settings, right, your desktop native resolution, don't consider it a nuance. Again, consider it as something to understand, not necessarily ignore. Okay? Consider it a tool in your arsenal for delivering a playable experience on this platform. One that's meant for you, one that's relative to you, right? Nobody else, because how you play your games is going to vary compared to how I play my games, compared to how, say, Sparta Rules play his games or will play his games. Tricion and anybody else that's here watching with us now or watching on the replay, which again, shout out to our replay viewers. But consider it a tool to your arsenal, right? Or a tool in your arsenal for delivering a playable experience, right? Not something to ignore, but something to understand. But the Doomsday Clock has begun. The hands of greed has pushed this platform toward the brink of irrelevance. But as a community, we are left not just to deal with the aftermath, but the fate of holding out and ushering in, say, the next generation of PC gamers and enthusiasts. But all right, friends and family. Woo. What a ride that was. Always a good time, nonetheless. Always a good time over in the OK Corral. And before we head out really quickly here, I just want to really fast. We always do it before we officially slow the ride down and bring it to an end. But in case if you weren't here for the earlier opening house cleaning segment, I do want to follow up with the closing housekeeping segment, just in case you weren't active and present during the top of the live stream. But a few ways to support the channel directly is to, one, sign up for our email list. It's a way to keep an open line of communication directly between myself and yourself as a core member here in this community. Unity does start with you. All I need is your email address and your first name, so I know where to send the email, and of course what to address you or how to call you, your first name. If I be deemed unworthy to grace your inbox, you are free to unsubscribe at any point. But this will help you stay up to date and informed of all new and upcoming channel programming and any new content that should be rolled out. Excuse me. And of course, be invited to our community Discord, Converse. And then there's merch, which we got the Hot PC Summer line dropping for the summertime. I swear it's coming. It's coming. You can support the channel with a purchase as low as $4.99 in the form of a sticker, or the No Player in the Wild graphic series tee, which this is one of my favorites here. Love, love, love this T-shirt. Got to pick me one up here because it's summertime. It's getting hot out here, y'all, and I'm gonna need me a tee, right? I'm gonna need me a tee. As much as I love the PC Gamer #2 graphic edition tee, and even the plug #5 graphic edition, I need me a tee. Maybe the plug #5 t-shirt graphic edition. But there's a little bit of something for everyone over there. Merch helps support the channel in a really big way, no matter the purchase size. And of course, if you can take a picture, share it on your social media. If it's Twitter, I'll respond with the video message. If it's Instagram, I will make a post and tag you in it with your picture. Love, love, love seeing the community swagged out in the Inside the Lab gear, whether that be a sticker, a t-shirt, coffee mug, hoodie, or what have you. And then the website, which is a direct extension of the brand, a direct extension of the content, the message, all of that good stuff. You can find the most recent upload VOD over there, or the previous live stream or live show if you missed the live show and you want to see what the topic was about or get caught up on where we are with everything. Of course, see the entire videography or learn more about your boy Inside the Lab. Contact me with a little bit of friendly, constructive, or destructive criticism. I'm all open to it either way. And of course, learn more about the merch store. Woo! All right. See, I told y'all when we weren't going to run as long as we normally did. Again, I'm not a big fan of doing our Sunday flex live streams, but speaking of alternatives and compromising, this was better than the alternative, and that was not going live at all. Something I really didn't want to do, but we will be back to our normal scheduled programming next Saturday. Okay, so do keep a lookout for the link when that live stream goes up. And before we slow the ride down officially, I do want to give our closing goodbyes and shout outs to. And again, if you're here, if you're still present while I'm giving these out, do let me know. And if you've watched this far up to the replay, let me know down in the comment section. I double back and check for new engagement on these videos or on our live shows all the time. So if you had a question about anything we discussed, or you still want to add to the conversation, please at any point feel free to drop your comments down in the comment section below. That's for our replay viewers. For those of you who are here right now, though, do give me the opportunity to officially say peace out to the Mr. Zombify, who says thanks. Oh, I'll see you later. Hey, TMZ. TMZ, it's always a pleasure to have you on board, fam. Are you in the Discord? I think I ask this every time, TMZ. Are you in the Discord? Do let me know. If you're in there, maybe you're in there underneath a different name. I do apologize. Part of my ignorance, but if you're not and you would like to, if you would like to join, shoot me a DM. But let me say, let me give closing considerations to Tricion, XLR Gaming, Cliff, Sparta Rules 1993. That's Anthony. Of course, Joe Hornsey, who earlier today said nice discussion. I'm glad Joe enjoyed the conversation, enjoyed discussion. I do want to add here really fast that around the 50th episode or the 50th live stream, we will announce the changes the live show will undergo. As upcoming this August 5th, it'll be essentially one full year of doing live streams, and we would have made 50 live streams in between that time. Awesome stuff, or just our normal live shows. We did do a few pop-up live streams here and there, and of course a few specialty live streams. But also keep a lookout for those pop-up live streams. They're coming still. Oh, they're coming. We got to finish Alien Isolation. But let me see who else. Make sure I don't leave anybody out. Krypton 60 Hertz was here earlier, so shout out to Krypton. Maple Joker. sharing a little bit too much love, but nonetheless, it was good to see you, Maple Joker. Skitty Live also had popped in and said what's up to everybody. Bad Habit, of course, it was good to see you, Bad Habit. Let me see, and I believe that was everybody. Wow. So again, yeah, not as big of a turnout that we're normally used to, but nonetheless, it's all good. All good as always. But yeah, we will be back to our normal scheduled live time next Saturday. Again, if you haven't yet, watch the video in the pinned comment above this link here. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I will also hang out over in the post during the post credit scene to talk and engage with anybody who may have any lingering questions over in the chat. But I do hope to catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy.